To my extreme left, Lucan.
Good afternoon.
Herb Adney.
Good afternoon.
Peter Brothers.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Carl Horn, our Vice Chair.
Good afternoon.
I'm Nathan Tour, Chair. Good afternoon. To my right is Phil Warren, our Town Manager. And
Good afternoon.
Karen Landry, our Recording Clerk, is at the far right. Just to remind you, if in case of emergencies, the exits on either end of the building. If you need hearing devices, are at the back. Ask you to turn off all electronic devices if you could, please. And the restrooms, if you need to use those as you came in the building, just keep going straight. They're right there. So at this time, we have one thing on our workshop agenda, and that is W14-4. This is Village District Petition of Maple Ridge. So Phil, would you want to start us off, please?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You received a correspondence from the Maple Ridge Road Owners Association and residents in that area respectfully petitioning the town of Meredith to approve and authorize a vote for the purpose of establishing a village district in the Maple Ridge Road area. In anticipation of that, we have asked our town council, Laura Spector-Morgan, here tonight, and I would just ask Laura to go over what actually is a village district, how the process works, and who needs to do what. Thank you.
Just make sure the red button's on, Laura, that's all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I guess I'll start with the basics. A village district is its own municipal entity within a town. And they can be established for various reasons. Most often you'll see them, as in this case, established to maintain roads. Once you get a petition to create a village district, there's a process you have to follow. And then thereafter, in addition to attending town meetings, those people who live in the village district will also have the option of attending an annual meeting of the village district itself. So that's what you've been asked to do here. Once you get a petition to establish a village district, it's actually up to the Board of Selectmen to lay out the boundaries of that district. I generally recommend asking the petitioners to come in to help you figure out what they think the boundaries should be, because they're the ones who are asking you to create the district. Once you figure out what the boundaries are going to be, you essentially call a town meeting of all the voters within the proposed village district. So it's not the entire town, it's just the residents of the district. And they vote as to whether or not they want to establish the district. They vote to name the district, and they vote to choose officers, usually just commissioners, also a clerk, treasurer, whatever else they want to create. And then once the village district is established, they will have their first annual meeting at which they can raise and appropriate money to do what they want to do, in this case, take care of Maple Ridge Road. Is Maple Ridge Road currently a Class 6 road? Class 5?
Or if,
It's a private road. Okay.
Friday it's a collect, but we didn't accept it.
Okay, so it's a private road.
Yeah.
Okay. So the village district would take over and maintain that road as if presumably it was a Class 5 road in the town, but they would be solely responsible for it. You will have no responsibility for that road. And if for some reason the village district should dissolve at some point, you will have no responsibility for that road as a consequence of the fact there had been a village district and it had maintained it.
Okay, so if there was a catastrophic situation, the road is, wiped out, who's responsible at that point?
The village district.
Village district. Okay. Thoughts, questions? Herb? Mike?
It sounds like there's not much of a downside for the town, but we're clean of it. What's the downside for the citizens in that district?
In the district, it will add to their tax base because they'll need to be raising and appropriating money to maintain the road, and whatever that village district meeting votes to raise and appropriate gets collected through your tax collector, so they will have a slightly higher tax rate than the rest of the town. I'm assuming they are, since it's a private road, they're probably paying that now in some form to maintain the private road. People who, for whatever reason, are not choosing to participate in maintaining that private road, if they're part of the district, will not have that option. They will need to pay that additional tax, and if they don't, they'll be subject to all the other consequences you have when you don't pay your taxes, including losing your property to the town.
And one further thing, if they decide to abandon this idea 5 years, 10 years in, is it just a simple majority of the residents?
I believe it is, hang on 1 second. No, 2/3.
2/3, thank you.
Question for Lou?
Right.
Hypothetically, one of the properties or two or more are sold. What is the onus of the new buyer as far as, if the new buyer doesn't want to participate, or do
Doesn't
they
matter.
have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if they're part of the district, they're part of the district, just like if they're part of the town of Meredith, they're part of the town of Meredith.
So that would be basically part of the listing, probably?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, Peter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had a question in terms of the, just for clarification, you established the boundaries, and I'm assuming that's per some sort of a subdivision plat or something like that, that's on record?
Probably your tax map, you would, and I assume these are the petitioners here today, they'll be able to tell you what they have in mind for the district boundaries, but whatever roads access this private road, it would be up to you to use your judgment as to what would be part of the village district.
So what would constitute a voter either for or against inside that district? Do they have to be residents? Do they have to be Meredith residents? Do they have to occupy it? If it's land only, I mean, can we break down who would be participating and who might not be?
Sure. In order to vote at the meeting to establish the district, it's a meeting of voters domiciled in the district. So if they don't live there, they're not a voter domiciled in the district. If it's just land, they may be domiciled in Meredith, they may be domiciled elsewhere in the district, but that parcel they wouldn't be domiciled on. So it's voters domiciled in the district.
Fred, begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that means summer homes wouldn't count,
Correct.
but they'd still have to pay the tax.
Correct.
Okay. So it's kind of, well, it could end up, sooner or later, some could be turned into summer homes. So I'm just asking that question, but I don't know who's there now.
Sure, just like any other summer home in Meredith.
So in effect, this is a condominiumization for residents. It turns into a condo for the road.
In some ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, again. Lou?
You want me to hold forth for a while? I used to live on a private road in Greenburg, Hartsdale, New York. There were 8 houses, and the road was a pretty good road because the developer had been required to pave the road, and it was wide enough for fire trucks, etc. And but it was not maintained by the town. It was not plowed by the town. And we didn't have a homeowner's agreement, but we just sort of had an understanding that each of us would contribute to the guy who plowed the road until one guy got a divorce and stopped paying. And it seems to me that this is an issue that the village district solves. But let me go a step further, and that is I happen to be on Blackbrook Road today, and so I drove up Maple Ridge Road. I didn't go all the way because I got frightened. And I would say,
That's the first thing.
my own view on this is if the town can help these folks to, get control of their road and maintain it, whether it be better than it is now or just as it is now, but not worse, and there's no expense to the town, I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of doing this, but we've got to resolve a couple of issues. And that is, I was counting homes from Google Maps, and it looked to me like there were only 8 homes where the driveway was on Maple Ridge. There were a couple of other lots with homes on them, but they front on Blackbrook. So I'm interested to see how that works out, because I would think that if we're going to lay out a district, we ought not to include people who are not accessing Maple Ridge Road, even if they have frontage on the road. So much for that.
And that's a decision you'll have to make. And just so I might add one more thing, it's not really the town making the decision on behalf of the district members. It's the town giving the district members the opportunity to make that decision for themselves.
Phil?
Oh, a couple more questions. As far as you saying there's no expense to the town, if it becomes part of the tax bill, then that becomes part of the preparation and the administrative expense for the town.
Yes.
And also, if there is action that has to be taken because somebody does not pay it, necessarily pay their share of the assessment, and then the town, 3 years and 6 months and some days afterwards, is forced into acting as the court, so to speak, and deeding the property. How are those expenses typically covered? Is that part of the budget that a district must present so that the contingencies and the liabilities, if we will, for some of those issues with the road maintenance or failure to pay them would not fall upon the city, or at least can be billed and or effectively collected?
The road maintenance is never going to fall on the town. Even if no one in that district pays their taxes, you don't have to pay to maintain that road.
No, I appreciate that, but we're going to become the collection agent,
You are going to be the
as I
collection agent.
understand
Yes,
it,
yes.
by virtue of non-payment,
Right.
which after some period of time goes to tax deed, and that's municipal responsibility and administrative cost.
And the expenses of tax deeding are rolled into the tax deeding process, so that when someone goes to repurchase their property or when you sell the property, you're able to recoup those costs. But that is the only way you can recoup those costs. As for the additional costs that may be imposed by having to add a line on the tax bill, those aren't covered, and I don't see anything in here that requires the village district to reimburse you for those costs, but that's not an issue I've ever fully researched, and I'd be happy to do that for you.
Well, I would just like to make sure that we know exactly what the responsibilities would be and what those costs would be. The other question I guess I have, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it seems like the town, shall we say, is in some ways the vehicle, shall we say, to create conformance within the constraints of the road. That they're using the statutes, which puts the town clearly in that position. I think by today's standard, the planning board would not approve the subdivision and or the road layout without proper bond, without proper base, road widths, slopes, and all those other things. And I too took a ride. I did go to the top and used the last driveway on the left to turn around in. And there is very little that suggests to me that it is anything other than a Class 6, and that there would be enormous cost to bringing it up to any kind of potential road standards. And so I guess my question is, does the town itself have any options at all that it can exercise, i.e. saying, folks, go do what you need to do to work it out, see if you can form an association with specifics, and put the onus upon them to bring the road up to reasonable standards and or to form a road association, which I believe is the proper place and the proper mechanism for this. I think maybe the law permits this village district to be petitioned by 10, but it puts us also in a unique position where there may be other taxpayers who own lots or own it as a second home that want nothing to do with this, and they're going to be forced into it by virtue of the RSAs as they currently are. So I guess my question is, not knowing the history at all, other than it doesn't appear that there is a lot of cooperation, shall we say, amongst all the owners. But there, in my opinion, there's somewhere probably around a dozen or so lots, and I got like 7 or 8 homes as well. But I guess what I'm looking for is there's some other recourse that makes more sense than getting the town involved, that they, as a group of landowners, inherently should be assuming that responsibility, not the town of Meredith.
There certainly are other vehicles by which this group of people could choose to maintain the road. I'm assuming they've tried one or more of those and it hasn't worked. I will say now that you've been presented with a petition for a village district, you have no choice but to follow the statute and to call a meeting of the voters in the district unless every one of the 10 people who signed the petition withdraws it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Phil?
Thanks. I have a few questions. We talked about the taxation responsibility for the town. After the village district is formed, there is no responsibility on the town for the posting or holding of their village district meetings?
Not if the village district is working properly.
Okay. If it isn't, then,
It can become a mess.
okay. And what they would do is they would then file, I gather there's an appropriate MS form like there is for us. It's filed with DRA, it's filed with the town, and then we just put it on similar to what we do for the school.
Correct.
Okay. I think now, I just want to ask this question. What would happen if the select board chose not to lay this district out? Because-
If they chose not to petition to have the meeting.
No, if they have the meeting and they choose not to lay the district out.
If the voters in the district vote down establishing the district, then there's no district. The selectmen don't have any voice in that. The selectmen have to present it to the voters domiciled in the district.
Okay. But as for the district that's laid out, it's up to the selectmen to identify that district.
Yes.
Okay. So the selectmen don't have the options of saying, we're not going to identify a district?
No.
Okay. Now, if someone's in the district and they don't agree to pay their portion of the taxes, it sounds like the district would expect the town to take a deed in the property.
I don't know what the district would expect, but if their taxes aren't paid, or if a portion of their taxes aren't paid, you have a statutory process you follow to take that deed.
And,
It appears to me, Phil, that that's quite clear what our responsibility is. It's a question of how we get there and why we have to get there.
and the final question I have is that, is there a setup in the RSA or in the law that requires the town to pay the monies collected in a certain manner?
Yes.
We don't have to pay them in advance?
You have to pay them by the end of the year if it's under what?
It depends on how much the taxes are, and it's set out in 5216.
It's going to fall under that 200,000.
200,000,
Isn't that
you have
kind
to
of the
pay it.
benchmark that we're looking
Right.
at?
Something like the state pays us, I believe, at the end of the year. If it's over that, I think it's a certain date.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I am correct, am I not, that we only turn over what we collect, not what we build?
I have some towns that turn over what they bill, and I have some towns who turn over what they collect, so.
Meredith is a collect town.
I would think so, yes.
Okay, anyone? Phil?
No, I'm all set. You may have questions on the board.
Okay.
One further observation. Yes, if someone wants to give up his property by way of tax deed, he cannot pay his taxes. I really don't regard this as something that we're going to end up having to aggressively enforce. It may be that someone will, for a year or two, try to see what happens, but I don't see Meredith as delivering a tax deed. Someone's going to end up with a tax lien on his property, and if he wants to sell, he's going to have to pay his taxes. And otherwise, I think we just sit there and let it happen.
And as with municipal taxes, there is a process for an abatement request, so that is out there.
That's a question. Abatement, if a person in the district had an abatement request, the abatement would be on the total value. It wouldn't be, there is no process for someone to come in and ask us, you abate the value, not the taxes, correct?
Normally, you abate the value, not the taxes. In this village district statute says the power to abate and correct the assessment of such taxes shall belong to the board authorized to assess them. So I think it's something that's out there as a potential request for an abatement, and I've never had one come in, so I'm not sure how it will be dealt with.
But that board would be the village district, not the select board.
Also a question I've never actually had an opportunity to answer, and I've wondered myself as well. I think it would be the commissioners.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Heard? No? I saw the lips getting ready to move.
Do we know how many properties exactly we're talking about?
Well, I think
That will, 10. 10.
Yeah, I think the next thing would be the.
Okay. If no further questions, Laura?
Mr. Chairman, are we going to hear from the citizens?
Yes, that's what's coming next, yes, I hope.
More questions later.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Do you want me to stick around?
Please.
Just in case. Okay, if someone from proposed village group would like to speak, or
Yeah.
members, fine, come on up, please. Just make sure the red light is on, because that means you can be heard, I hope.
Hi, my name is Patricia Radin, and I'm the current acting president of the Maple Ridge Road Owners Association. That's been in existence for, active for about the past 2 years. Just to clarify some questions that came up earlier, there are 10 properties on the road that covers from Blackbrook Road to Callback Road. The last house on the left is mine. There are about 8 properties on the road today. We do have a survey in case there's any interest for somebody to see that we recently took of the road, which will kind of cover the span of property we're interested in considering for the village district process.
That's one thing I think has got to be really defined, because
Yes.
that's what's going to make this what it is.
I just want to talk about too, one of the major reasons why we're applying for the village district is there is a concern with the fact that the road is, I think, at a 750-foot incline. There is a river on the road. One of our primary reasons why we're applying for it is for federal funding. Today, if there's an issue with a road,
Thank you.
the owners are all responsible for whether there's a problem. If we're considered a village district, that responsibility would fall on FEMA, or something would be eligible for federal funds if there is in fact a disaster in the area. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm assuming that we just have a little bit of dialogue as we're going
Yes.
here. In order to qualify for FEMA, would it not have to be a town-accepted road? I'd just like clarification on that.
Please, just identify yourself, that's all. Sir.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mike Poirier, and I live at 24 Maple Ridge Road. I recently retired from the state. I worked with the state for 30 years, and one of my primary jobs was to act as the state coordinating officer for declared disasters. In a declared disaster, FEMA would come in, and the eligible applicants typically would be state governments and local governments. Road associations or any type of associations, condominium associations or anything like that would not be eligible for federal reimbursement of damages to their infrastructure. What FEMA does allow for as an eligible applicant are village districts. They consider village districts as a quasi-local government, so they are an eligible applicant in a federally declared disaster. A few of you did travel up Maple Ridge Road. As you know, it is a very hilly road. One of the biggest risks in New Hampshire is flooding. We've been lucky so far. I've been there for almost 10 years. We've been lucky. There have been a few washouts, but nothing. There has not been a major catastrophic event there. Though Belknap County and the town of Meredith has received federal assistance for flooding events. My experience is that sooner or later it's going to happen. And being a village district, being designated as a village district, when that disaster does happen, at least we would be eligible for federal reimbursements for damages on Maple Ridge Road.
Okay. Any questions on that point?
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
just a little clarification here. You'd be looking to include in your district, wow, this is small. Oh, my eyes are just bad. I'm gathering it's Georgia Zuntos property,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Reardon,
Yep,
Smith,
yep.
Ostrowski,
Strowski,
O'Hearn,
Ahern, yep,
Poirier,
yep.
Hubbard.
Yep.
Poirier, Hubbard, okay.
Jagir,
Jagir,
Denard,
what is this one, Hayes.
Hayes, yep.
And then there's
Demaray.
Demaray.
Okay, and then those other parcels go out to Blackbrook Road,
They
so
would not be.
they would not be, neither would, it looks like Renwitzer, which is a road leading in, that wouldn't be included.
That's correct.
And this other one, is it Heel, that wouldn't be
That's
included
correct.
either.
No,
Okay,
just the 10 you mentioned.
Okay.
That's correct, yep.
yeah, just, so that's what you would want as the district, those 10 parcels. Can we hang on to this, because I'm...
Yep.
Yes, that's
Yep,
for you.
those copies are for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
And
No, thank you.
it's a recent survey as of this fall. so.
Okay.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions, anything else you would like to state, or someone else would like to? Sure, come on, just come on up and identify yourself, that's all we ask. Please do.
David Demarek, I live at 9 Maple Ridge. That was the first driveway on your right, the paved one. I guess our hill is even worse than the road. Our primary goal here today is to create our village district so we can service and maintain the road ourselves. We are, at this point, not wanting to widen it, wanting to get it to town specs. It is going to be incredibly expensive, whoever mentioned that. We don't have the funds to do that. However, all the people in this room and some people who are not present have done work, including physical labor, to try to bring up the road, widen it a little bit, make it a little bit better, do some fill-in. We have a budget set. We have a very good team of people that are now on the road. The vast majority of them understand that the road is in ill repair. We want to take responsibility to repair it ourselves. Not only for emergency and medical equipment to be able to get up and down the road, which, as you guys know, at this point would be virtually impossible. And we want that ability. We want to make sure that we're protected for ourselves. Basically, what we want to do is just take responsibility of the road and bring it up ourselves. And we've got a budget set, and we've done everything that at this point we think needs to be done to hopefully have that happen.
Okay. Okay.
Just one question. The first, and I know I'm destroying this name, and I apologize, but I cannot see it. The property at the corner of Callback Road and Maple Ridge Road,
Vasilios.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, are they here tonight? 'Cause-
That gentleman is actually a non-present owner. There is no residence on the property,
right.
and he has been one of the people who has been assisting in the budget. He is
He has been
aware.
contributing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he has been contributing, yes.
The people that have,
Okay, just, I'm sorry, can you like that, please?
Actually, the one at the table.
Table, okay,
Sorry
that's-
about that.
this may be an important thing, where some of the people that own just lots on the property with intent to develop in the future realize that the road is virtually impassable. Therefore, their property is worth less because somebody who's looking at that property sees less value if they actually can't get to the residence, never mind put a house up on it. Some of the people that own just lots, like Mr. Vasilios, realizes that, and he knows that by us maintaining the road ourselves and the road being passable, his property values may actually go up just a little bit, but more importantly, he will have the ability to build and sell. So the benefit to the town is pretty obvious as far as the tax income in general. But we're just basically looking just to get it repaired so we can drive on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was the only one that wasn't listed in the signatures. That's why I asked, because the rest of you all.
Okay. Why don't you wait just for a second? Lou, then we go to her.
I was looking at the tax map this afternoon, and I saw that there was one property sort of not far from the entrance from Blackbrook Road that had an access to Maple Ridge. The property was well off Maple Ridge, and it seemed to also have an access to Eagle Ledge.
That is actually, that road is no longer
That's
in
the paper one, right?
That's,
Yeah,
David explained.
Yeah, this is my wife Kelly, she's
Come on up.
It's on the bottom.
Please,
Actually on a
just
property.
please state your name, that's all.
I'm Kelly Demaray. There is a paper road that goes alongside our property. And it does go to Eagle Ledge. There's a landlocked property behind us, and it doesn't have access from Eagle Ledge or from Maple Ridge, except for this paper road.
So are they in or out here?
They're out. Because the person that has just purchased that property is going to take the access from Eagle Ledge because it's too much to try to get in from Maple Ridge, so they're not going to pay that. Okay.
Sorry about the light in your eyes, but if I stand up, I'll block it, I guess. Okay. Herb?
Thanks, sir. I tend to be a person who likes the free market and handle as much of this as possible. And it seems to me, a combination of insurance companies not wanting to insure you up there and mortgage companies not wanting to loan money on a house that doesn't have a decent access, does that play into this in any, do those two things play into this in any way to?
It certainly does for people that are going to try to sell their property. I think everyone who's there, as far as I know, has insurance.
But that doesn't lead to being able to solve this on your own without doing a...
We have formed an association. We have, as Mr. Brothers, that's the first way we tried to do it. It had been done informally to begin with. We couldn't collect regularly from everyone, even just for plowing, again, to make the end of the road safe enough for emergency vehicle access. We could not get enough participation. The association was formed, it went dormant, we reactivated it once we got a different ownership as some properties turned over and some of the newer members were willing to come along with some of the other members that had formed the association earlier, and we reactivated it. We still can't get 100% participation, and that's critical for everyone's property in order to have the funds necessary. We can spread it amongst all of us. But we have the majority that do participate. Even Mr. Vasilios, who's not a resident and doesn't have a property there, does participate so that we can keep it plowed, keep it passable, and keep it safe for emergency vehicles and for those of us that have to go in and out, obviously.
Any question, please?
Go ahead.
This isn't something we would make a decision on, I don't believe, but could you give me an idea, have you had any engineering estimates of what this is going to require? First, to fix it like you want it and to maintain it.
We haven't had any engineer, we had the property surveyed so that we can get some bids to do some major road work, and we've established a major road work fund, which we've been collecting. But what we're looking for the village district is to just establish a budget of a regular amount every year, year in and year out, that we will be collecting. This major road fund for major road work to get rocks blasted, get everything smoothed out, get appropriate ditches so that it's not undermining the road as it is now, or any rain and melt undermines the road. If we can do that major road work, we're looking to form the village district so that we'll have a regular income every year in order to plow it properly, sand it properly, and grade it every year and keep it in a condition that is passable. We have gathered the money to do major road work, but we have not had an engineer. We've just done the survey and had bids out to professionals.
Thank you.
Lou, wait just a second, just check on the other two. Peter, anything like that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of the 10 properties, can you tell me how many property owners are not in agreement with doing this?
2.
2. Okay.
Okay.
And one of those gentlemen uses the road on a regular basis.
One property owner, one part-time.
Yeah. One is a part-time.
And obviously, they're not here tonight.
That's correct. They are
Okay.
not, they were notified.
But they were notified via email that there was a meeting tonight in advance. As soon as we knew there was a meeting, I informed everyone that is a member of the association.
Lou?
Well, picking up on Mr. Poirier, is that on his observation, he's an expert on this. This road is long and steep and dirt, and in case of really heavy rain, it's going to wash out. And I think that if they get a serious washout, I think it's a big advantage to them that they'd be able to get FEMA funding. Right now, the condition of the road is such that I would not want to have a town fire truck trying to go up it. If it went up, it might not come down. So,
Well, that's our concern.
or the ambulances. I think it's just, right now that road is in very, very dangerous condition.
Well,
Well, it's improved over the last couple of
Yes.
years, too.
We do have a spring and fall cleanup where we go out there and actually work on the road and bring in crushed gravel and green one and have it laid out and continue to try to bring it up.
Just one more point, and that is, to Herb's free market point, it's quite clear to me that the planning board, as it exists now, and our zoning laws as they exist now, would never have permitted this to occur the way it is. So these folks are kind of stuck with something that the market did years ago before we had controls.
Okay, Herb?
Thank you. I'm concerned, some of the things that Lou has said and others, that fixing this road may make it better for those citizens, but if there's a lot of water running down there and we find a way to get it out of the way quicker, it could cause a problem at one end of the road or the other, or both, for our town roads and some of our other citizens. So that's something that we have to, if this goes forward, we're going to have to play an oversight, or at least I shouldn't say advisory role, but we're a concerned citizen, so to speak, for those other properties and for the town roads in that region.
Well, there are already culverts to draw the water off. They're not large enough, and the water runs into Lake Winnisquam, and it already has its route, and it already has culverts, but they're broken down. The ditches aren't all the way down the road, because they weren't put all the way down the road to begin with. Some culverts need to be put in under driveways. We're funding that ourselves.
Those are culverts that are on your various properties or on your road.
They're already on our road, and they go underneath Blackbrook Road.
I'm just worried about the town culverts on the other roads that where if it now races off of your property,
Right.
so that it doesn't do
But
any
it doesn't,
damage.
that's what I'm saying, it doesn't. We already have culverts, and it's already diverted into a creek that runs into Lake Winnisquam. And
And at this point, it is pretty difficult to see those culverts with the 6 feet of snow you have. But if you drive it in the springtime, you will see good 3-foot ditches on either side of Maple Ridge Road that are well defined, that we have cleared with our spring and fall cleaning sessions, where we all get out there on a Saturday and roll up our sleeves and do what's right for that road and clean it, and also clean up the culverts. There are a couple culverts that need to be replaced, which we are willing to take responsibility for. We're not asking
Funding
any,
it. We're funding.
we're funding it ourselves. We're actually just trying to make it a lot easier for the water to flow under the road, which will be redirected back to the town culverts, which are actually in very good shape, and go directly into Winnisquam. So
which is already where it's going.
we reverse engineered it, and we know what we need to do for our road to make sure it's seamless. I'm sure you don't want our brush going through your culvert, so we're actually clearing our brush for it.
I can't resist pointing out that to a degree, this is a snapshot of history being replayed. If you go back a couple hundred years, the law required that people maintain the road in front of their house, and there's certain rules. And if a guy provided, one of the rules was if you provided a horse, it was worth 3 days. So,
I don't think that would be possible.
But that is what we're trying to do, is maintain it ourselves.
Peter, any comment?
Yes, just a follow-up question, maybe more from a historical standpoint in town. To the best of my knowledge, there are no other districts in Meredith for this purpose. But my question would be, how many other private subdivision roads do we potentially have in Meredith that could make the same request of us to form village districts? Maybe something we need to just check on. I understand the scenario, and I'm sympathizing, and I'm also looking at safety and the other things, but I'm also looking at it from the standpoint of what precedent is being set here potentially, and what other people in village and road associations that can't come to terms are going to use and employ the same, shall we say, village district structure, RSAs, and shall we say, add to the responsibility of the town of Meredith overall.
There are others in Belknap County, not in Meredith, and we've consulted with them as to the process. There are many in the state of New Hampshire, but some of them are for water, for drinking water and, other.
I'm more interested in the impact it's going to have in terms of Meredith.
Of course.
I mean, it is an extensive
I'm familiar with
process.
village districts.
It took us 2 years to do. It does require a vast majority of people that live on the road. At this point, we may be looking at a unique situation only because the road is in such disrepair that we've gone to such dramatic measures as to come up with $15,000 out of our own pockets to make sure that we can do this correctly. In all honesty, based on what I see in the town of Meredith, this may end up being a unique situation where the owners actually want to take more responsibility off of the town instead of trying to find a way to have the town take responsibility for the road. We're actually trying to do the right thing and take the onus of the road off of the residents.
Mr. Chairman?
Can I just add one thing here? I think we check with Laura on this, but we have no say on how many we can have, because as long as 10 people come forward with a petition, that's the way it is, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way I thought. So I think that's a partial answer, Peter, but potentially could be a vast number.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Okay.
as Lou or Herb, I'm not sure, pointed out, the planning board today requires that there's a homeowner association in place and that that's all worked out ahead of time, and that it's a structured program. We have that. I can think of one neighborhood is 18 Mile Point. 18 Mile Point has a homeowners association. In this case, there wasn't one pursuant to the subdivision plan from the sound of it, so I think that was the missing piece. So I don't think our exposure is as extensive as you might think if you look at the map and you see the colors of the private roads, because the majority of them are either a standalone road or they're in a subdivision that's already got a homeowners association in place.
Which is why this is a very unique situation, which is we don't have any HOA attachment. We're literally on our own here. So your statement is correct.
What Mr. Warren has says is correct. There's a little bit more to that. In the recent years, and the recent being at least 20, we've been very careful about any multiple home driveway or access road meeting standards, and the selectmen have to rule on that too. So that any of the newer ones, if this ever became an issue and it's still a private road, they petition the town and it's already in standards, and we've taken over a good number of them. So this is probably fairly rare.
And just so you know, if it helps the town to understand, when Carl Johnson did the survey, and he gave us some information about what it would cost to bring the town back up to, the road back up to town standards, before we could even petition for the town to take it over, it's several tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, it's an amount that we do not have. Unless one of us hits the lottery, it's not going to happen. We're fully aware of that. That's why we're not pursuing that angle.
What was that number?
It actually turned out to be like 135.
Okay.
Yeah, to have it widened, graded, leveled, elevation set for you, the radiuses of the turn set. Literally, we went down, we spent a lot of money on a survey to see what it would cost, because that's not going to happen in real life.
Okay. Colin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was talk earlier that you were talking about culverts and runoff into Winnisquam and so on, and those hearing that concerns me somewhat as far as changing the road or reconstructing the road or widening it, or...
We're not doing any of that.
I'm just asking the question, that's all, because I want to make sure that if it is within proximity to brooks or rivers or streams or the lake, that that you're adhering to the Shoreline Water Quality Protection Act.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're not making any changes. All we're going to do is improve. The culverts that are there, some of them are broken. We're going to replace them. We're trying to smooth out the road so that it's easier to plow and easier for emergency vehicles to get up, because there are rocks in the road that need to be removed. But we're not going to be adding additional culverts or rerouting anything. We are just going to improve the ditches, replace the brook. Some of those are broken down from years of driving over, and replace the culverts that are there. We're not going to change the direction or alter in any way where the water flows.
With the sledgehammers that we took, was it fall or spring that we took it? trying to get some of the ledge pack out of the bumps in the road. That road's not going anywhere. We just want to make it flatter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else on the board? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the group like to? Marshall, just come up and introduce yourself, please.
Marshall Hubbard. I moved in on Meredith Hills subdivision in 1978. 1972, that subdivision was approved by the town of Meredith. And at that time, it was Land Auction Bureau who was building in there. Not building, they were developing. They went bankrupt. The land was brought back by Charlie Fitzgerald. Charlie Fitzgerald got into bed with Dominic Subdivision of Builders. They created Meredith Hills. Dominic went bankrupt. The land went back to Laconia Savings Bank, and Laconia Savings Bank sold it to Belcher Subdivisions. Prior to all of this action, there was supposed to be, once a number of properties were sold, there was supposed to have been a association formed, which that never happened. That piece of road you're talking about, Jim Belcher, when he created his subdivision, he sold that piece of property to a person, he's out of Hudson, I'm trying to think of his name now, but he bought that property, and Jim Belcher sold him that road right away, which was going to be Chipmunk Hill Road. And that went up around and came back into an old gravel pit that there's a camp owner on Blackbrook Road that owns that piece of property. I'm trying to think of his name, because he used to be a surveyor for Allied Surveying. There's been a number of things in these years going on that road that I can attest to. I maintained that road myself for 20 years. I had my own tandem axle grader. I had that road out to 18 feet. The town of Meredith started putting out permits to build in there, and then the cooperation was near nil to keep that road together. As we stated earlier, I went to the expense myself of trying to form an association. The people no longer live there, who destroyed the association, took the money, paid it out to whoever, canceled all the association out. Now we've got some people in there who are interested in this road and their own safety. I didn't bring a bunch of material with me today. I can bring out pictures of hardships in there. We're trying to get this road where everybody's property, everybody's lives are
Increase the quality, I guess you could say.
yeah. It's been tough. It's been tough in there. You think that road is tough right now? I can see, or I can remember when there was ditches, trenches in that road where two wheels went through and the road froze and it had 8 inches of ice on the road. That's what we've been dealing with. We're trying to move forward, and we've got the association very active now, but we're trying to move one more step where we'd be qualified to receive additional funding, whether it be state or federal, to accomplish what we want to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just to put things a little bit in perspective, it may sound like an inquisition to some degree to you. It may sound like it's even adverse. I think most of us here understand that you have a significant history that you've either enjoyed, or in this particular case, not enjoyed, from what I hear. And I fully appreciate that. But looking at it from this side of the table, I'm just trying to ask what I think are good questions in terms of what may be other liability. Are there other ways to do this? You mentioned the FEMA federal funds that could qualify for. That I understand. But also, unless I'm misunderstanding you, you've had difficulty getting landowners 100% to support this. And by virtue of forming the village district, one of the things that the town is going to assume by virtue of collecting those assessments is then that will be invoked upon them to participate, and we will assume some of that. We'll give you the cash flow if they pay it, but I'm just saying it's, there are some reasons other than just the FEMA funds that you're coming to us. And the other question I have, and what I was trying to hear was, at some point, that association or that village district, if it's successful, will be looking to bring the road up more to town standards. And so I'm trying to anticipate how that might impact the town in terms of, does that require any kind of a planning board approval at that point? At that point, these are just questions that I have as, with my responsibility as a selectman. I don't want to appear that, that it's negative. But I think asking some different questions and looking at it from a different perspective is also beneficial. And so I think
If
we're
you
just
don't mind
trying to get it
addressing
up the air.
your first concern, when my wife and I moved in and purchased the property on 9 Maple Ridge, which is actually the 5 acres in front and the 5 acres in the back, where that paper road abuts, we actually, I got a chance to meet Marshall, who lives at the top of the hill. And he shared with me some of the history about getting the road repaired, because we noticed the road was in poor shape, and we're the first driveway, and we had a problem. At that time, the owners at that time, there was still a little bit of animosity based on the previous history. Since that time, there's been a substantial change of ownership, us coming in, Ed Reardon coming in, there's been at least 3 or 4 changes in the property. And the people that have been coming in have understood the situation of the road, we all have the same vision on what we want to do. So it's almost like the old guard has gone with all the animosity and all the infighting, and the new guard has taken over, which is trying to take this road over. Marshall, unfortunately, has seen the negative side of it, but at the same time, he's had the pleasure of seeing what the new blood, when the new blood comes into town, what we want to do for this road. As far as any liability for the town, at this point, there is none concerning maintaining the road. My concern is that there might be something reciprocal based on a fire truck or an ambulance that's not able to get up and get service, which would, I'm sure, would be a concern to the town, because that would be possibly a couple of its taxpayers if the ambulance can't get up there. But more importantly, if I understand your question correctly, it's about the collection of the fees. We have the majority that are right now paying into our homeowners association. We do want to go with what we're presenting today, just to have a little bit more leverage. That's all it is.
If I may follow up, it sounds like to me it's more than just a little leverage. If they don't pay it, then the property becomes deeded, and that works its way through the cycle of
The amount of money is
tax
minimal.
deed. So
Yeah, the majority of people, even the people that are currently retired, the amount of money is not substantial. And the majority of people have figured out how to either pay it in payments, which we've set up through our road association, or make a bulk payment like some of the even non-present owners have done, which is, let's just throw the check, let's make it go away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to clarify too that the association can place liens, and we have where we needed to. So that is one of the articles in our covenant. So we have been taking action where action is needed for those who aren't participating, but we do have about 80% participating. So, the fact that the village district will help us with the federal funding, but also the association collection process, we feel the town has a little bit more leverage than the association does, and I think that's why we're looking for the village district, so.
I think there's another thing too, that you will set up commissioners or have your own board, and you will have your own meeting.
That's
which
right.
everybody participates in, and that's where it's levied from that point on.
And they will
So
attend,
you
yeah.
are very internally
Yeah.
controlled, shall we say, and then
Yes, and, you know, we have been very successful in collecting funds. You know, to your point, Ms. Horn, we want to improve the area. We don't, my guess is that probably the way the road is today may not be the best for the Blackbrook and Winnisquam area. So the fact that we're going to improve it should be a betterment for the area. Where it's not ditched appropriately, I would think that there is, you know, water and other things maybe flowing down that maybe shouldn't right now. But we're not planning on causing any issues to the area, and we'll make sure that that doesn't happen, so.
Thank you. First, of course, as the select board, our first duty is to protect the town from any injury. But at the same time, I think we're all, our hearts go out to you. We would like to help you, but most of my questions have been aimed at getting in to make sure you're not doing something you'll regret. And one of the things I'd like to point out is, right now, I think the numbers you used were,
I think that we've kind of heard your reasoning, and I certainly agree with it. Too bad there isn't another way to do it, but this is the way you've chosen. And I don't think that, well, I think that if you go forward and you're successful, you're also doing the town a favor. You're not eliminating, but you're ameliorating what's right now a safety hazard for fire and ambulance and police. And so I'm all in favor of it. But on the other hand, you don't really have a choice, Mr. Chairman. This statute says we shall, we must. And so it seems to me what we ought to be doing now, having explored all of this, and we ought to, we need to call a meeting, we need to lay out a district. And I think the way to go about that is that the town manager should sit down with these folks, lay out the district, or their proposed district, find out what they want to do in terms of the timing of the meeting, and then bring it back to the select board so that we can adopt the layout and call a meeting. So when is our next meeting?
our next meeting is March 17th, but I think what we have to do first, I agree with everything you said except maybe one thing. We have to, first of all, set the boundaries. That's one thing. Then a notice has to go out for a hearing, which includes all the people here.
Right.
And the people who are voting are those people within that district. We have zero to say about that part there. And then it goes on from there. Once everything is laid out, then it's approved by the selectmen. Am I 99?
Well, if I got it right, we have a hearing and we lay it out. We have the hearing to lay it out, and then we call the initial meeting of the district, they elect officers, and away they go.
I don't think you have to have a hearing to lay it out. I think what Mr. Khan is suggesting is that you, Phil, meet with these fine people, agree on the boundaries of the district, and then come back to the board with the boundaries of the district so the selectmen can bless it. And then,
So they just vote on it at a meeting?
yes,
Yes.
And then once that's determined, then you publish the initial
put
meeting
together
for
a warrant and.
the village district.
Yes.
Yes.
And might I say where there's only 10 people, in this case, you might want to send individualized notice just by regular mail to all the members of the district.
And this is it, right? So that's pretty much,
That's correct.
okay,
Blackbrook or Comeau?
right.
Yes.
Those
There's
10
no-
parcels I
Those 10
just,
that you turned up.
Okay.
There's no properties on Black Brook that are involved with this project.
right.
Yeah, those
Okay.
10, yep.
So the next thing would be for you to establish.
Well, no, what will happen at the next
Okay.
meeting is you'll have, you'll take action on this at the meeting.
The layout.
Yeah, the layout, yep,
Which would be March 17th.
March 17th.
And
then
that would
after that,
be
well,
non-workshop, that would be a
That'll be a
regular,
meeting.
regular meeting, which would be at 5:30.
Yeah.
But that notice will go out to everyone.
Well, no, after that, the notice goes out.
Excuse me, yes. Okay. Did I mess it up as much as possible?
Well, I would just, I think clarify that you're sort of in advance of the March 17th meeting, that we have an idea of what they want in terms of their meeting. Because we can then kill two birds with one stone. We can lay it out and call the meeting.
Yep.
We're happy to meet whenever you're
Okay.
available. So you have my
Yep,
contact
I
information.
do.
So, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, anybody else, comments, questions? Or- Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have,
I can do it in my 5 minutes.
okay. This time, before we adjourn, we're just going to go into Thank you. Okay, this time, before we dismiss, we're going to be adjourning to the other room. We're going to go into a non-public session as of RSA 91-A:3, Roman number 2A, dismissal, promotion, and compensation of any public employee or disciplining of such employee or investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has a right of public meeting. I request that this happens to be open and in case of question be granted. So at this point, we will be moving to the next door and the workshop is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, how are you?
I know I sent it today.
Probably not if it was today.
All right.
No. I get cleanings all the time.
I know, I sent one of those.
Normally, this means I can get all. You know,
I just happened to be coming up the district mosquito bridge today, because they were clearing snow on Port Street. And so I went to the exit, and I decided to come back.
That's the only question.
So I just went to Ohio Road, and I stopped, and I backed up, and I turned around, and I said, see what this feels like. Well, there's a fork about
Community Center. And at this time, I would ask you all to please rise, and Peter, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Certainly, it's a pleasure. Please join me. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the board to you. To my extreme left, Lou Kahn,
Good evening.
Herb Vadney,
Good evening.
Peter Brothers,
Evening, everyone.
Vice Chair Carla Horn,
Good evening.
myself, I'm Nathan Tour, Chair. To my right is Phil Warren, Town Manager,
Good evening.
and extreme right is Karen Landry, our recording clerk. Just a quick reminder, if we have to leave this room, the exits are on either end. Hearing devices are at the back. I ask you to turn off all electronic devices, please, and if you need to use those restrooms, they're straight in as you came into the building. At this time, we will move to the acceptance of minutes of February 10th at our regular meeting. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, the recommendation was inserted that you identified, Lou, in the final meeting minutes. Peter, you had sent an email, I was a little confused about what was or shouldn't have been in there.
It had the warrants, but it had the minutes of the meeting attached to it as well.
Well, the warrant was actually part of the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Remember, we read the warrant at that
Yep.
meeting, and then it's the town manager.
No, what I was sending you was, I realize in that particular case it was, but when the warrant comes out, I just want to make sure that that was pulled out of there.
Oh, it's not supposed to be in the minutes?
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, I get
The
you.
minutes are not supposed to be in the warrant.
That's correct. That was what.
Oh, yeah, no, the warrant was a separate, okay, all right, yeah. No, the warrant was a separate
Together with them,
document.
and that's what I wanted to make sure that was separate.
Okay, thanks. That's why I was confused.
Mr. Chairman, with the correction that Phil noted, I move that the minutes be accepted.
Okay, wait a minute, we have to, okay, we're all set though, right? Okay,
Article 11 didn't have its recommendation in it, that was the only change that.
okay, and can I be second? Okay, now any discussion, we're all set? Before we get going, I hope. Okay, all those in favor of,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, it's 5-0 accepting the minutes of February 10th regular meeting. We move on to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, as a reminder, we ask that you don't shovel snow in the streets, you don't plow across the street, you don't leave snow in the right-of-way. God willing, we won't have to have this discussion much more this year.
Let's get to the boat licenses.
Yeah, that's, come on, I got a couple more. Again, the fire chief and the police chief have asked that your driveways are shoveled and cut back if possible. There's a number that is visible from the street, the roadway, and then the snow is removed from the driveway. Waste oil is accepted as solid waste, no charge, 5 gallons per trip or more if arrangements are made in advance. And boat registrations are now handled at Town Hall. Board of Selectmen meetings are both streamlined and available on demand at the town website, which is www.meredithnh.org. LRPA TV also streams on they stream Channel 5 Live, and they have it on demand, and that is lrpatv.org. While we're talking about snow and not boats, we just took a look today at the year-to-date for the snow removal. From January 1st, at this point, we have incurred approximately $39,000 in overtime, $68,000 in salt. We have $40,000 in sand, $49.80 in winter maintenance supplies, and about $4,000 in snow removal transport, which is the hired trucks. So our total year-to-date is about $127,000. 25 of that isn't billed. We're in the $150,000 to $153,000 range.
Out of a possible,
That is not diesel fuel because we haven't done the allocations yet. The possible amount for that, the budget for that, all those amounts is $304,000. Remember, that's from January 1st to December 31st. So we've got another winter.
good.
And I probably don't need to point this out, but that's probably about half of what's going to be required to fix the extreme damage to the roads this winter with the plowing and the frost. It is the worst I've seen it in a while.
Good old frost. Okay, Phil, any more?
Yeah, I have a couple more things. In response to a request that I had brought to the board regarding notification for town meeting and elections, we purchased the signs and we put them around town to show the election and the meeting dates, stuck them in the snowbanks at various spots. That cost us $150 for those signs. The final cable TV franchise agreement came in today. Literally today, it's in the envelope. We're going to review it and we're going to have council review, your special counsel. Fairpoint sent a letter alleging that the town damaged the utility in front of George's. They were advised there was a car crash there that may have done it. I'm advised that this is pretty much their strategy. They send a letter without any support, hoping we're going to pay, and they were clearly informed that the town assumes no liability in that matter.
So, to expand on that a little bit, this is what has been going on Main Street with the,
Yep, you
Power
see the
company.
trucks out there,
Yes,
yep,
okay.
yeah. Apparently, the utility got struck in front of George's, and as I said, they the letter that they sent to us was that a bucket loader clearing the sidewalk struck it. Well, as you're all aware, we don't use a bucket loader on the sidewalk, and to strike it with that kind of force would take a pretty good whack, and to do that, it relates also to the car crash that occurred there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just clarification, was that George's or was it the antique place?
No, what happens is it was George's, but I'm guessing that the line goes underground to the antique place, because they shuttle back and forth.
Okay.
Downtown parking has become an issue a little bit, and we have merchants who, and people on the downtown area that park in excess of the 2-hour restriction, and it's not so much a concern in the winter, but of course it's a concern when it's busy. What happens is, there's a 2-hour parking restriction, but it's only for that one space, so if you move, the 2-hour clock starts again. A letter from the police chief, and it was delivered by the lieutenant, went out to all of the merchants in the downtown area explaining that employees and other folks should consider parking in lots, and that parking's a minimum on the street. The lot merger that was scheduled for the next meeting is going to be delayed until for this meeting, excuse me, is going to be delayed until the second meeting in March. We were advised by council that we need to have a hearing. In order to make that hearing process, it requires us to put it off till that second meeting. The town has begun participation in a reverse 911 system offered by New Hampshire E911. This will allow for notification in the case of town emergencies. The system only includes copper, traditional home landlines at this point. If you would like your cell phone or your voice over IP phone included, you have to sign up at www.nhe911.org/self-registration. We're going to put this on the website.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I just figured in case anybody's sitting at home. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions on the report? Okay, thank you very much, Phil. Visitors and residents' comments? Okay. Then we'll move on to committee reports from the Select Board. Are there any? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to new business. And 14-6 is committee appointments. These would be to the Conservation Commission and to the Energy Committee. Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a correction, there is a reappointment for Don McFarland in there. We are not handling that tonight. We'll handle that when we do all the other reappointments for the boards, which occurs later on in the year.
So we have one.
You have an appointment request for James Gregoire of Swain Road in town here for the Conservation Commission. He is recommended by the Chairman, Mark Billings, and as an alternate at this point. And you have a request for Joseph Rando from Water Street to be appointed to the Energy Committee. In the case of the Conservation Commission, that alternate appointment I would recommend that you make for 3 years, and that the appointment to the Energy Committee could be made until a successor is appointed, because the Energy Committee does not have any set terms or limits to it.
Okay, could we have a motion on those two gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman?
Peter?
I'll make a motion that we appoint James Gregoire to the Conservation Commission. It's a first-time application as an alternate position for a 3-year term forthwith. And secondly, that Joseph A. Rando III be appointed to the Energy Committee as a first-time regular position until a successor is named.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Carmen, question.
Several meetings in the past, we had discussed this as far as, and I might be incorrect, but I thought we wanted to ask new committee appointments to come in and introduce themselves to the board, and I don't remember if we ended up finishing that discussion or if...
You never did.
I think that was an open-ended,
It was
yes.
an open, yeah, it was. because there was no resolution at that point, whether or not, that's why I didn't schedule it.
Thank you.
Is there any thoughts either way, or should we move? Go ahead, Herb.
Mr. Chairman, I've always felt, and stated here before, that it's probably counterproductive to have them come in and do that, because many people are kind of hiding in the weeds. They like to do work, but they don't like to come and say, basically beg us to put them on a committee. And so I don't think it serves any purpose. And we don't have a wealth, an excess of people applying for these positions, so in some cases we have to be happy with what we get. We get good people, by the way.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think also in the past, we've relied pretty heavily on a recommendation by the chair of the particular committee. So usually when they come forth to us, that selection process and the recommendation for the vacancy or the opening that's there is with the nod and the approval, the recommendation of the appropriate chair of that committee.
Mr. Chair, to add to that, both of these recommendations flow through the chair and the committee.
Okay. But it is a good point, Carl. I think that should be acted on later on.
I was just trying to clarify. I know
Okay.
we had the discussion. And I
Good.
certainly wouldn't want anyone to have to come in and beg to be on a committee.
Okay, we have two gentlemen, it's been moved and seconded on the two committees. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0. Thank you very much for joining on our committees. Anything else under the business?
When does this come up?
Doesn't have to, it's done.
You've got the Board of Selectmen moving and seconding the Article 13. I think that
That was
that's a
sent,
petitioned article, they want to take care of it themselves.
okay, that was sent out as for a, what's the matter? Oh, I thought,
It's just looking for auditory.
oh, that,
You
okay.
want to?
Yeah, is Lou's mic on or no?
My mic is now on,
Oh, yeah.
and the question is whether or not the board should move and second Article 13, and I take the position it should not.
Okay.
I realize this came into my hands via email about 15 minutes before I left for this meeting.
Yes.
But it seemed to me there was no opportunity, other than this meeting, to discuss it before town meeting.
Generally, the,
Having fly spec the rest of it, I'm happy with it.
it's the handout that you get before town meeting, and we usually handle it administratively. And then if there's no objections from the board, we proceed with it. But at this point, if you don't want to move the second Article 13, not a problem, but I would just ask if that's the position of the board.
So let's go back to you, Lou. Where are you at now?
I don't want to move or second Article 13.
Okay.
And I think last year, when there was a petitioned article, we didn't do it either.
No. Okay. Herb? No.
I
Okay.
think that's probably a good policy, that if it's a petitioned article, it be moved by the petitioners.
Okay, but I think what it is right now is it's just put forth by the petitioners, and it's left that way, period.
You know, what happened, Carl, is we sent out something this afternoon that we basically, a handout that we put together for town meeting. It doesn't? Okay.
It says we moved it, right?
Yeah. It says Vadney moves it, Khan seconds it.
What does it say under the article?
It says the selectmen make no recommendation.
Yeah.
Correct.
But then,
But us moving it sounds
Yeah.
like we are making a recommendation. We intended, I thought, to stay neutral on it.
I think what you'll find is, okay.
Well, no, that's in the minutes. This is something we just sent out.
Okay.
And Article 13, it shows that the motion, the way we prepared it, is that the motion would be made by Herb and it'd be seconded by Lou. So, if you...
Does not post any recommendation.
No. This has nothing to do with the recommendation.
The motions we actually use.
Mr. Chairman, during my brief term as moderator,
Yes.
I had to face a few petitioned articles The way I handled it was I went to the petitioners and I said, if you're not at the microphone when this comes up, it's gone. So that's the way they want to be handled.
So you don't want, okay,
Right.
we'll fix this.
Thank you.
So for those of you out there confused, the last article is going to be presented by the petitioners and not by the Board of Selectmen, because it was, the Board of Selectmen did not take a position either for or against that article.
Thank you.
Everybody happy now? Good.
Very.
Very good.
While we're talking about town meeting, Mr. Chairman, if we could use this opportunity. Town elections are March 11th, and the town meeting is March 12th.
And
If anybody wants, the school meeting
March
is
5th.
March 5th. If you want any information on it, it's all, we have the budget and the warrants posted in the normal places, and it's on the website, along with the budget and that information.
Okay, so just quickly go through that again. School meeting is March 5th. Voting is March 11th, 7 to 7 right here in the community center. And on March 12th is town meeting at 7 o'clock at the auditorium at the high school.
Yes.
So those are the things to keep in mind. And just anything else? Anyone wish to read?
Just in light of that, let's go ahead and state that the school board meeting is Wednesday, March 5th at 7 p.m. at the high school as well.
Yes.
Okay.
The members of the district from 3 towns is invited.
3
to
towns
attend.
invited. Okay, if there's nothing else come before the board, this is my final meeting as chairman, and I want to thank you all for helping me out very much. It's been a good year. There's a lot of head scratching, little discussions periodically, which is fine. That's what makes an excellent board. And I also want to take this time to thank the employees of the town for doing a wonderful job. We do live in a beautiful place. I know people sometimes mumble, the snow is high, snow comes down, spring will come, and if you don't like it, I guess Fat Tuesday's tomorrow, we can all go to Mardi Gras.
Mr. Chairman.
So thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for doing such a wonderful job this year. As chairman, you've done superbly.
With that, I'm going to say meeting adjourned, and we'll see you all, we hope, at town meeting.